Before we call the meeting to order, can I move to add, just like a board member updates roundtable discussion?
Should we do that after the meeting's called to order so it's official?
Yeah, we can call it to order and then do that, but we have to do it before we approve the minutes. Call the meeting to order.
Okay.
Okay. And we could do it wherever, after agenda items, before calendar.
Yeah, I think that's what we did this time.
Okay. I think I need a motion to do that.
You want to take motion?
You have to have a majority, yeah, to approve to put it on the agenda. So,
Before we-
motion to adjourn.
I guess, like, are we even allowed to do that? To make,
Yeah.
Okay.
I check.
okay, cool. Well, in that
You
case,
talked to, by the way?
Well, I pulled like that resolution and it's like, we have to follow the same thing that city commission does, and city commission does this, so they add stuff to their agenda. They can as they need.
Okay, I read it differently, but that's fine.
Um. Okay, so I moved to add board agenda items, advisory board items to the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye. All those nay?
See them?
Brian or Mike?
Can you guys hear us? I just want to check.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I gave a thumbs up, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll add it after agenda items. Thank you. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the August 18th meeting. Any comments on those? Michael, Ryan. Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve them. Second.
I'll second.
Who first?
Mueller.
Jimmy.
Second, Kuzniak. All those in favor? Say aye. Nay.
I
Brian.
Aye,
Nay.
sorry.
Okay, aye, okay. Passes unanimously. Okay, on to public comment. Is there any public comment? Or is there anyone in the public?
you can see us on the call, probably.
Yep.
Okay, no public comment, then we'll move on to the agenda items.
The first item that we have up is the appointment of our, I guess it's not even the appointment of, or just recognition that we have a new member of our board, which would be Sara, and that Jenny was reappointed. So if there's any questions, but we will be working to make sure that she's actually getting notices, like we hope. So, and we've been working on fixing whatever was going on with the MailChimp that was going out. So we think we have that fixed. So
Sarah appointed to a slot that was vacant, which is why her term was so much shorter than.
yeah,
Yeah, I think.
it was the individual that wasn't showing up before
Or responding. so.
or responding. Yeah, or any of it. Yeah. Yeah, I did as much digging on that as I could and got nowhere. So they don't have a current utility address anymore either. So thinking they moved out of town. Yeah. So. Yep.
Cool. Glad to have a full roster.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
And once we get a hold of her, we can talk and kind of get her up to speed on sort of what we're doing. That sounds good. Okay.
Okay, next item, appointing someone to the North Lawrence Comprehensive Corridor Study Task Force.
Yeah, so part of the scope was to have a task force that would serve to represent different segments of the community and the strategic plan. And obviously, Connected Cities is a huge part of that. And so we are looking for someone from this board to carry the voice of the Connected City strategic outcomes as part of that study that we talked about a couple of times in here. So, yeah, and we need to have that all set in place by the middle of October. So I was able to kind of see the schedule and have it on this meeting so that it didn't become complicated for us. So if you guys need time, you have it until our next board meeting, which would be October.
So Ryan dropped off because he had to restart his computer.
Okay, which would be the 13th. So in theory, you could appoint someone on the 13th of October if you guys want to have a discussion now about it, of who
Well,
might
I
want to do
think our
that.
next one's the 20th.
Oh, is it? Am I
Yeah.
off a week? I am sorry. Yeah, so we need to either do some kind of like voice or a vote tonight, or I could set up a mini special meeting to get someone appointed between now and then. So.
That sounds complicated though. But you have to have somebody before the 20th.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it runs about a year,
Okay.
start to finish. It's not gonna be every day and it's not gonna be every week. It'll be different milestones along the way of the project. And I think maybe the first time they would meet would even be this year, would it be the first of next year?
The task force,
Or should
yes,
it meet in November?
it would be October or November, like either end of October, or early
Yeah,
November.
okay.
Because we'll be doing some listening sessions, and then the task force will look at all of that information that had been gathered from all those.
Anyone interested?
And again, this runs from the airport down to Sixth and Mass. And kind of encompasses everything from the river east to the city boundary, and does pick up some of the county, which was, I guess, quite a source of consternation at the commission meeting that I was not at last week because of a death in my family. But we will be, I think it should be really interesting and fascinating. So if you want to geek out with us as we look at the future of North Lawrence, we'd love to have one of you.
There's a big transportation focus, economic development, looking at, underutilized areas and how to make them more utilized,
And then,
everything
yeah, Parks and
from
Rec to
quiet
sustainability.
zones for railroads, the
Maybe we could make it
stormwater.
railroads.
Yeah.
Have interaction with the river and how we do placemaking in that as well. So it's a lot it should be a lot.
Looks like a pretty interesting roster too, who's on the task force. That was,
It's a strong towns thing.
is it?
Mm-hmm.
It seems very similar to the approach to like downtown master plan and the development code update, like kind of a similar. And yeah, it's interesting to see it. I also didn't get a chance to keep up with the city commission discussion, and I don't have LJ World Access anymore, so I didn't see what, if any, of the discussion was around the makeup of the board. Like, were they generally pretty okay with it? Or is there pushback on anything, suggestions?
We added more representation from the county based
Okay.
on that.
That makes sense. County Planning Commission. Planning
Yeah.
Commission. Okay,
Yeah, we had a planning commission member, but now it would be like they would specifically select someone from the county,
that makes sense.
from the city county planning commission.
Okay.
And from the township. That was the other request. So it's a 12-member task force now.
Okay.
Is anyone called to doing it, interested in it, connected to North Lawrence?
Normally I'd be the first one to jump on this one, but honestly, after 2+ years at the LDC update, I'm not sure I got it in me for another one. That was a long steering committee. I don't think I can do it again.
Yeah.
So for now, I'm gonna step back and put somebody else's voice here.
Yeah, me too, since I'm on the bike steering plan committee, I think. If somebody else wanted that.
It is an inspirational project, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in it. I'm not on any subcommittees, but I'll also hear from Mike and Ryan.
Yeah.
My current work obligations, I don't know if I'm the best fit right now, but
I could probably do it. I definitely have days that I need to avoid now that I'm being returned to the office partly, but I have a little bit of flexibility as long as days that we schedule stuff are amenable to my schedule. And I would assume that people would adhere to that because everyone else has schedules that they need to block out too.
Yeah, that'll be the consultant that's coordinating that with whomever's appointed to the task force, and they're gonna have to figure out how to navigate all that.
So will it be evening appointments, do you think? It's hard to say until they do it, but.
Yeah.
I don't
Until they get the
know.
Group together the first time or reach out to them, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
I'm assuming they're gonna have to do something like that.
Yeah.
In order to
Very
get,
late afternoon or something, you know, where
Yeah.
they can make it work. If it's
Yeah.
like 4 o'clock or something. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Mike, either way,
Yeah, I mean, if you are particularly called to it, I have no problem with you doing it, but I also do have flexibility, and I have used North Lawrence stuff before, even though I'm not from that area, and I like being able to help people use those resources better. So I would definitely be willing to do it too.
and it is for the community, so I mean, we want obviously the
Mhm.
folks that live there and have a business there to have a good say in it, but it's also a community asset as we move forward. And what does that look like for everybody?
Yeah, I'm definitely the furthest from that area. I don't think I can get further southwest from North Lawrence than anyone here, so.
if you're drawn to it, then I think you should do it.
Okay.
Motion to nominate.
Yeah, can somebody motion to not nominate him?
I have to move, I nominate Mike
Yeah, there you
to
go.
the,
Comprehensive corridor study.
yes, the North Lawrence Comprehensive Corridor Study.
I'll second.
All right.
All those in favor?
All right. Looks like we got that. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. And Mike, they'll be in contact with you probably mid-October is my guess, because our deadline to get everybody through
Mhm.
all of those is right around then. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
And if you have questions in the meantime, you can reach out to Melinda or I.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Next on the stormwater modernization or stormwater code
I can't wait
modernization.
to see what Trevor has for us.
I will share my screen. Get this up here. So we've been talking about stormwater and the term ERUs for the calendar item for several months. So we're finally ready to kind of present our new methodology to the, well, let me make sure I can advance my slides here before. There we go.
Yep, it's working.
Okay. Got my slides here. Basically modernization of the code on our methodology about how we determine basically stormwater rates. And those kind of are backtracked to equivalent residential units. The original code language and ordinances on this was, basically when the stormwater utility was created, pretty much 1996, 1997 type language. And when we look at how and how you measure an ERU, like in modern code, and I'll get to this, is basically through modern GIS type layers, parcels and stuff like that. So back then, obviously GIS was at a different level than it is today. So there's definitely new best practices. So we're just really trying to get the code modernized. We've worked with Ruff Tillis, who's our consultant, that does rate forecasting with us. But they also looked at this code because how we're changing this was just kind of change how the rates get implemented. But an ERU definition is equivalent resident unit is our average impervious area of a single family residential property, essentially. And then
Does anyone have any questions on that? Sorry.
It's just like the area of concrete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or
So-
asphalt or whatever you've got.
Rooftops, driveways, patios,
Decks to a certain extent if they are roofed.
if they're roofed, yes.
Yes.
The new calculation was based on the median value of of all single family resident properties, because our GIS database, we have it all. And best practices generally are that you take 400 and kind of just do it from there. But we had them all. So we just did it. So the new one, the new method, I keep having to say the proposed method. So this is how it currently is billed. One ERU is 2366 square feet. And the charges, here's what's a little complicated. The charges are based on the building footprint for a single family residential category, including any permanent structures. So if you look at the table shows us how we built residential ERUs. And then it's based on building footprint and you have a square footage there. And what you'll notice is, well, one ERU is 2366, but in the table that doesn't fall in the bin of 1,800 and 3,000. And so it actually, there's an assumption there that the calculation for like your driveways and stuff is going to be that difference, that 23. So there's like a conservative factor built into this calculation. Again, this was done by a different consultant a long time ago, different methodology. And so it's really just outdated language. Number one, and then number two, so that 2366 is comparable to how we'd measure it today, but there's been a lot of development in Lawrence since this time. So the ERU size actually changed. And so the proposed changes is we include all impervious surface in the calculation. Base ERU, as I mentioned, was based on that median of all of those single family residential properties, and that's 2,800 square feet. And then the new billing bands are provided, these were provided by our consultant to align with basically general industry standards, where the majority of your residential parcels are one ERU. Because that's what your median is. That's really where you should centralize your billing band. And then the old approach, the majority of your residents had 1.25 ERUs, and now with this approach, it's the majority are 1 ERU or less when they look at people's properties. The definition, this is a definition change in the code as well, and this will get into how the multifamily ones come in, is the single family residential for the billing purposes includes duplexes and triplexes. And most of that rationale is because those are oftentimes just one single type residential structure. And a lot of times they don't have a lot of meters like a typical multifamily large complex would do. So it's really just more for that billing and impervious measurement. Another factor, if you notice under this table, when we get into really large square footages, so our largest bin goes from 4,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. So anything over 10,000 square feet is basically kicked over to the non-residential category. And then anything less than 400 is basically not going to get charged and be treated as undisturbed.
Couple of kind of technical questions here.
Yeah.
So the first one is, it's been a long time since high school statistics, but if the median is basically the middle value of all the values laid in the thing, then wouldn't only one property technically be 1.0 ERU and everything else be less than, and the other half would be greater than 1 ERU?
Well, they're using are you asking about the bins here? The one ERU on the bins?
The one that have
2,800.
bins.
Not yet. I'm more just confused why the majority would be under 1.0 ERU. Wouldn't it be exactly half technically would be under the ERU? I guess it depends on how the bins are set up.
Right, so you get, so technically, yeah, so your actual middle value is 2,800 square feet, but what you see is these larger, when you get to the 4,000 and above, the 2,840, and then there's actually 200 properties over 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So all those we didn't shake up the ends, but the middle group is so similar. It was a matter of 2,800 to 2,830 or something like that, with a ton of them. It was basically like the 40 to 50, 60% quartile.
Okay. when you say the definition includes single family, duplex and triplex, does that mean that fourplex and up is not kind of residential anymore and that falls under the commercial rate structure instead?
Yeah, and it's not even considered residential now in the current code. It just depends on their meters. So it's,
Yeah, it's the
so it's
meters.
a meter, like stormwater is all about, like, is it multi-meters? Like multi, meter residential is what they call it, or master meter residential. If it's master meter residential, they just bill it to a master meter.
So that would be like a big apartment complex.
Yep.
Okay, do fourplexes have master meters? I don't know enough about that size, honestly. There's not,
It's really,
not a lot of them.
it's really mostly, I would assume they could be, they're all different. So it could be, and some of this is part of the logistics of a college town and college housing. So
Yeah, that's true.
some of it is very challenging in terms of, you know, is it just a residential meter where they've subbed out the house a little bit?
So the final question, I guess, is why bins when I would assume that since there's a spectrum of how many, you know, exact ERUs each property is and you have the GIS data for each property, could you just say like, hey, this person is exactly like 0.5378 ERUs or whatever, and then just multiply it? That's some property tax.
It certainly was an option, but this kind of aligns with just your industry best practices.
Okay,
Because.
And I would also say from a billing perspective.
Yeah.
Keying every individual property, there's a lot of room for error.
Okay.
And I don't even know if our system can handle it, so I'm sure you guys.
Yeah, most GIS systems are not gonna have a super high precision until you start using like military equipment, and we're not in a position to do that. So you're gonna be considering some decent amount of error, because it's probably like what, maybe 10 meters would be your margin of error that we could get with satellites. It's
Within a couple inches.
Yeah, we can get within inches.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it allows those.
no, that's good. But I mean, you're still talking about what's your precision on that and how wide is the variance on what you're actually getting at, you know, it's. I appreciate needing to do bins. It makes it a lot cleaner and more easy to explain to people, I think, than that your house is exactly this square footage, so we're gonna apply a formula.
Yeah, and it provides that, you know, let's call it a buffer or conservative factor. So if you do add a little, maybe throw the third car parking spot in the, you know, type thing, if you add a little pervious surface, you kind of know, you're probably gonna stay the same. You may cross the threshold, but that won't happen overnight. That'll happen like when we do QAQC on the parcels.
okay. I was curious if this started to border on the issue of that excise tax prohibition for the state of Kansas, that Melissa you brought up last time. I read an article on it, and I unfortunately forgot exactly what it was about. It was a little bit different, but there was some issue where like you can bill utilities for the amount of consumption, but not necessarily for like how big your house is or how much street area you have. I forget, it's a very technical thing, but I wonder if doing what I hypothesize could be possible given the resolution of GIS data, if like that actually is legally problematic, even if it isn't computationally problematic. Because like now you're saying like
It's widely applied across the state,
the bins or the excise tax thing.
the bins.
Okay.
What would you see as the advantage to more granular though?
Well, I don't know what the stormwater rates are. They're not high. It's not like property taxes. Like this is a way lower stakes thing. But like if you were at the very bottom end of a bin and you were like 5 square feet away from being in the lower bin, like, man, that's like a 20% increase and stuff. But if it's 20% increase on like $4 a month, who cares, right? Like, I don't know. I honestly haven't looked at that part of my bill in a while. But I recall it being not a huge part of the bill.
They're one of the lowest parts.
So yeah.
But you'll see that precision as we get into the non-residential, because they're larger, right? So they're easier to get more precision.
That makes sense. And a lot more varied in size also, right? Okay. I'm with you.
So here's a few examples of the different billing systems. So the same property. So the top one is how it got measured under the old, or actually I should call it the current code. So it's measuring just the building footprint. And another caveat of footprint is it doesn't really include overhangs. So you're looking at, and that's like kind of almost impossible to see when we're looking at an aerial image. And so that's why you kind of see some of these off center. But if you, your pictures hide in what, so this is an ERU example of one that's decreasing from 1.25 to 0.0 or to 0.8. That bin, because under the new method, we're not seeing a whole lot of impervious on this lot. So this is a good example. So they were getting, somewhat. You know, it would be, it's almost somewhat overbuild the way we were looking at this property compared to the new version.
What about the driveway access to the alley facing garage?
Yeah, if it's public pavement, so that's a good question.
It's not public, right?
And then I get, and then I was thinking the same thing, like, is this back corner, I don't know if that's their designated like parking stalls, and the other area is, you know, I don't have the details on this lot.
It looks a lot like an East Lawrence lot where you have property facing the street, but the alley is how you get to your driveway. And sometimes they're orthogonal, sometimes they're parallel. When they're parallel, you have to actually go in and like, that's definitely a private driveway.
Most of the alleys they'll keep as, you know, right away type stuff.
Yeah.
Here's an example, one that kind of pretty much stays the same.
Similar type of layout again, but.
Yeah, but this house is, you know, on the large size and the other one, because of those bin sizes, they're so much smaller.
Right.
And then we go to the larger bin sizes, and it kind of accommodated the driveway patio, that type of thing.
It seems like the most important thing is that's the ERU equivalent or the equivalent,
Residential unit.
1.0 ERU just went up a lot, right? So because that even if you're adding impervious area, if it's not a lot, you actually may go down simply because the median is shifted. Right. If your house is not shifted. Right. Which is good for a lot of people.
Especially on their smaller lots.
Sure. Which should be paying less for
Which are
stormwater.
strong towns.
Exactly.
And here's one that's showing an increase now. This is more a smaller building footprint. And then when you have a smaller building footprint with the impervious area captured, you'll see some of that change there. So let's get into the basically what essentially was like the multifamily. The current approach has a different methodology for what's basically, you know, essentially multifamily. This is our master meter or multiple meter residential, and that's how they're listed in code. And this is the table that's in the current code of how those get built out. But there's a lot of shortcomings with this and challenges with this approach as well. Because we could easily, if we compare it to the new approach, you could overbill for high-rise structures that don't have a whole lot of parking. Because it's based off of the that total building footprint size divided by the total number of living units in the building. So if you have a smaller footprint type building with a whole bunch of living units, they're all gonna get billed based on the square footage of those units. So you may have 0.37 multiplied by a lot. And that, if you look at like the total ERUs that is, it could be a lot more than what the property actually is. You know, when you look at how to measure an ERU. So this whole calculations are getting pretty much swept, and we're moving to a streamlined approach, which will eliminate that residential master meter and multiple meter calculation. And they'll throw these into a non-residential approach, which the calculation for non-residential now is staying the same. It's just including everything other than that single family residential. And this is where you'll see that precision or more precision, where you're taking your actual square footage of all impervious on the property divided by 2,800, and that's your ERU you're gonna get built.
More equity.
Yeah. So when we look at changes here, all the changes were really to do, like, commercial properties that were already non-residential are pretty much, there's essentially no change. So like in theory, the Menards or Home Depots or something, they should be getting billed. The only difference is you're dividing it by 2,800 square feet. Yes, yep. So where we saw the bigger change were more like on those master meter multimeters, because it was a totally different approach. So then what we're seeing is, it really depends on the property. What you'll notice is the left side's I guess the current method, the right side's the proposed method, where everything's accounted for on the impervious side. And it goes from 25 to 31. Well, that's kind of hard to tell, but the way you have to look at it, we have to look at our billing software. So we know how many units there are, we know how many get multiplied, we add those up. And we're at 25.5. So when you look at 25.5 and then you go 31.3, when you talk to the consultant on best practices, he says, well, you guys aren't billing that one on the left, right? Because you're not you should be collecting, stormwater bills for all impervious service for the whole community. So you got ERUs on the table that aren't getting billed accordingly to contribute to the utility. So this is an example of one that was a little short, and mostly is accounted for in the parking area.
Right.
Because those calculations kind of had some built-in assumption that these will, this rate will account for parking in the facility. Well, apartment complexes or some of those complexes have gotten much larger, a lot more private drives, a lot more impervious common space that is private.
So out of curiosity, I have no insight into what these guys' stormwater bills would be like for the entire property. Is this the kind of thing where it would be distributed among individual tenants or just factored in the rent? And if, I guess regardless, like, what kind of dollar amount are we talking? Is this going from like 1,000 up to 1,200 or like 1,000 up to 3,000,
Yeah, so this one's
Okay.
good.
Right there.
Trust me, we've been looking at all of it.
So
Okay.
this one is an example, one that went way down. Because it's a higher rise unit with a lot of living units, so they got billed at 0.37 times all those other units. And that came out to be 28 ERUs.
So they were subsidizing the ones that actually.
So then,
Exactly.
so the new approach is like there actually is only 12.3 ERUs on this property.
So you're basically now incentivizing better use of land
Yeah.
and better impervious area, as it should be. This is the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it hard to complain about someone being in the position of the prior picture going up because they have so much private parking space and whatnot that they have purposely laid out for their use. Yeah, but it's a common thing that we all need stormwater, and you cover it up more, you need more support to handle it. So, yeah.
So here's another one. So this would be an example of a multi-meter residential. So this is a private development, so to speak. This part of the road here is actually privately owned. And they were doing the chopping up of the calculations for the units. And again, this one came a little bit under. They're only getting billed 24.75 total ERUs, and the property actually has 29.3 in it. Again, the majority of that is probably accounted for in that private drive.
Those are all like single level.
These, well, I honestly, I'm gonna.
And they could be townhouses.
I think they're like, some of these are 3 or 4 type units.
Mhm.
So like an end unit could be 1 floor and then the ones in the middle could be.
Yeah.
But when we look at
There's
the
acres.
part of the work, that's how we look at the parcels, because we're working with billing information. So these are like, this is a billing parcel, so they get, the bill, and then whoever owns this place
Distributes it. Mhm.
Duplex.
I must say probably, because
Maybe.
they work with billing on.
Okay, I've seen
how
this.
they do it.
Thanks for trying to look like that.
Here's a really challenging one that was up for lots of conversations, because we have multi-meters and we have master meters on this property.
It's like the nest.
And it had 126 ERUs based on 188 units there. However, you'll see they have a lot of pavement and a lot of private drive and a lot of private parking. And so we are way short on the ERU calculations there.
This one will notice
Yeah.
the change.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
It will-
you said some were master meter and some were single meters? I guess there's,
So
right?
these big buildings on the,
Oh, like the multi-story.
I want to say west, but I don't know my direction of the picture.
You're correct, it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the big ones are master metered, and then
Okay.
all these individual, I don't know if they're,
I think they're like row houses / duplexes.
yeah,
Interesting.
those are all,
This is the one
those
down
are
by
all,
K10
those
that
are
look
all
like houses that are
individually
not-
metered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The colorful ones.
Yeah.
Interesting.
this developer tried to come to Ames.
So, I mean, that is the quick and dirty of the changes of what the methodology looks like. Then on the billing impact, we are going to, well, let me go to my next steps.
Only 4 pump stations? That's impressive.
For stormwater.
That's not a lot.
We are going to commission October 14th to go over this rate setting part of it. But basically, when we're looking at this big of a change, a lot of it we're looking at is that square, impervious per square foot cost. Because they're not apples to apples the way they are now.
Yeah.
But yeah, really where we're seeing some of the increases are like that last example where you'll see some of those that just.
For some really large residential
Yep.
lots.
Yep. But there's also a lot of them, there's no change, probably for most of the properties in terms of impact to their bill.
We did a lot of ground truthing, like going, okay, well, what about this one? What about this one? Just to see if what was coming back made any sense whatsoever, or if we felt it was something that we could justify through the work as to the why. And this has been what, 2 years and maybe 3 years?
Yeah, this has been 2 to 3 years, and there's
The whole time I've been here, so I guess, yeah.
there's going to be a website we're gonna get launched where people could go in and look at the parcel and see how it got measured, so they understand what's going on. That's basically gonna start, if the commission approves these on the 14th of October, we'll launch that. Pretty much get working on some of that outreach to some of these customers that don't have differences, but it's kind of a modernization project. Yeah, it's been going on 2-3 years. It's overdue. I think the consultant was a little surprised how dusty that approach was relative to some of the communities he works with. I would go over all this. So this is what the rates go towards, right? So this is a lot of our assets and our infrastructure. These values are getting updated to we were just having a discussion today how when we publish stuff, it gets static, but we are always adding stuff, especially when it comes to stormwater structures with every project. And so I made a note somewhere that I think we're up to over 8,300 storm structures. And so we're working on a new dashboard for some of our information. And I realized these numbers are going to change quite a bit once we get all our GIS stuff done. The other thing, just with all the GIS information, that's much better, is we're going through in QA and QC in some of the parcels. So even though someone may be getting billed this, when we get in the system, we may realize, oh, that actually got updated, a while ago, and we just didn't get it into the right bill. So it's a process for sure. And then when we go into rate setting, a lot of that is it's our operating budgets, it's our equipment repair and costs, personnel. We got regulatory in here. We have 2 regulatory drivers in stormwater, one's being the levy and one being our municipal separate storm system permit program, which regulates all the stormwater that leaves our jurisdiction. That program in itself it's a large effort for us, but it's also, it's kind of a city program, because everyone's responsible for adhering to that, to ensure stormwater is stormwater. That's kind of the goal. You don't want it to pick up contaminants or pollutants or yard waste or leaves or any of that stuff. And then there's a lot of capital improvement projects, and you will, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them as we're driving down Tennessee now, and Jack Watershed, and there's a few more that are on the out years, but a lot of those projects will be highlighted with that commission presentation as well. So that was kind of the methodology behind it. And that's really what I wanted to kind of touch base with you guys, because that's what's driving the big
Like
change.
some feedback on how we're sharing the information and just understanding what you're hearing through this, and if there's things that you think are maybe triggers that we need to look at, or things of concern that we should be worried about as we go through this with the governing body, because it would be helpful since you're seeing it just kind of like they will, like fresh.
I think for me, it would be helpful to have the overall goal right up front. Is it to divide the cost of stormwater management as fairly as possible across impervious surfaces?
Okay, and to have a rate that allows us to also be able to make the investments to mitigate problems that we already know about, and to ensure that we're on top of this going into the future. So a lot of the work that Trevor's group has done with the new land development code was try to capture things that are causing us to have problems today so that they don't occur again when development happens. But this really is to go back and be able to manage what we have and correct for things that aren't right.
And then looking to the future, are you seeing any cities that are kind of on the front edge of what the next version might be when this becomes dusty in 20 years? Like, what are they doing to, because I imagine that impervious is not a binary, right? Like grass doesn't soak up, lawns don't soak up as much water as like a rain garden,
Yeah.
or trees, or a native plant garden,
Yeah.
or a rain barrel or something like that. And not all types of impervious surfaces are equal either. Some, like a deck,
Right.
water does get through.
Or
and
like
so-
our peak gravel driveway.
Yeah, and maybe that's too granular, but is there a way to like incentivize people capturing more rain?
That's a great question, and I didn't really touch on that, but as we get into another change in the code, there's currently credits, stormwater credits for, it's mostly developers or people that have to put in stormwater controls that are, we call them best management practice, but most of it's like detention stuff or retention stuff, and that was part of their plan reviews, they had to put that in. Well, then they could apply for credit. Well, that is very obscure in the code. When we look at who's getting the credit, it's somewhat obscure and it's really, so that's getting reset. So we're changing the credit, and then we're changing basically the whole application for it. Because the point of it is if you have to maintain that BMP, you get the credit. Right now, some of the way it was set up, it was like, oh, if you contribute to that development, you got the credit. And then there's this poor homeowners association downstream that actually is maintaining the BMP structure. And that's who we're communicating with, that, hey.
When it's not working correctly or
Right,
it's not getting
right.
fixed or has.
And they're, you know, so it's we're just resetting the baseline on that. And part of our stormwater, post-construction program, which is part of the MS4 permit program, is maintenance agreements, and that's part of the land development code too. So to get the credit, we're gonna have maintenance agreements on these structures. Because that's the biggest thing we get, you get dinged. If they, you know, if you have them, that's one thing, but if they're not operating as designed, they're not helping. And if they're overgrown, you know, they're not being maintained to be able to function as they can. With that said, there's a lot of stuff in our land development code that's going to allow for other things that are green infrastructure, so to speak. They're, you know, the more modern, you know, best management practices to handle stormwater rather than just the traditional retention and detention. And those are coming out of the MARC 5600 manual.
But can you explain like with that update that we're participating in to the BMPs? That isn't going with the rates.
Yeah.
So I just want to explain. So we'll be back again.
Yeah.
On this topic. We're getting the, you know, ERUs reset is what we're trying to do based on what we just shared with you guys, for how we're approaching it. And then some of these other things will be coming on the back heels of it, to offset for people who are doing best management practices and to help further, incentivize, folks to do best management practices. And ultimately it should be a nice pairing up, so.
But I think going to the root of your question, like we're looking at like a residential credit, that's not in the system
Yeah,
yet. but
like rain barrels or
Yeah.
something where they're
Yeah,
capturing.
and as I hear you talking through this, I was also thinking if it's only like $4 a month on my bill, that's not gonna be driving behavior change, but so the construction and contractor level and developer level is probably the right place
Yeah.
to try to pull the lever, not with individual households.
So it'd be for new construction projects then?
Yeah, it's usually site plans and stuff like that.
Large number.
But there's a lot of existing BMPs out there, you know, some of the church parking lots or just parking lots in general. That have them, but they aren't getting credits. And they're gonna likely be eligible if they go through the application process.
So we'll be
Maintenance
encourage
stuff.
them to do
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And then we can also look at what they've got going on there and work with them if we
Yeah.
have other things that they could do to be
Yeah.
maybe easier to maintain, better for the
And
environment.
it's the same with all those multifamily examples I showed you. A lot of those have a lot of built-in, you know, structures somewhere on their property that probably just aren't being accounted for. Or maybe they didn't meet the, you know, individually, they maybe met what they need to do. There's gonna be, I'm sure there'll be a tool we'll have people look into.
Any other questions from anyone online? Or feedback?
Could you go back to the tables, like, my like single family one? That might be the easiest place for me to talk about what I was thinking of. Yeah, and here, so you have the number of accounts that fall into each of these different buckets. Have you considered showing some sort of like distribution of like where these are coming from so that we can get a sense of how the old rates are corresponding to new rates based on what prior properties were
Let's walk up the
categorized
children.
for? Does what I'm saying make sense on that?
Yes.
Trevor did that, in
Yes.
fact.
Yeah, so it's basically about 60% of the accounts will see no ERU change or a decrease.
Okay. Good.
Um,
Good to hear. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much anything I had.
But if you do think of anything before we go on the 17th, no, 14th of October, 14th of October, is that right? Sorry, I'm getting my dates
Yes.
crossed. Yes.
Yep.
Please give us feedback, because again, this is something that in some communities gets pretty heated. People get pretty upset. Now, we've had this in place for a long time here, and we're using a similar methodology to what we were using before, but it's more refined, I
Mhm.
think.
More accurate too.
More accurate.
More accurate, there's gonna be a little true up, a little bit of, because it,
People will be able to call us with questions like,
Yeah.
On a rat on your neighbor that you go look at and go, hey, it's missing something, whatever. But we will be able to look at that really quickly now.
Yeah.
So it's a massive push on our GIS staff this last year.
I often try to put myself in the view of a public who has kind of no idea what's going on behind the scenes, either from a technical or just like general machinations, like how do things happen, right? Not just how to calculate it, but like who's pulling the shots, right? So I feel like there's, I don't know, every LJ World article that's even vaguely city related, just seems like there's just lots of distrust. It's always hard to tell, like, is it just the angry people who don't know any better who are just commenting? Or is this truly a representative sentiment? Like, you just gonna always have upset people. But as I read through those comments, I have to think like, well, like, it's convenient that I happen to know how things are going on. Like, I have this kind of rare window into stuff that people either don't have or don't want to have. And it's like, well, what would they be thinking? Like, this seems unfair. My bill's going up for no good reason. Well, there's actually a very good reason. And that's that it wasn't fair before, now it's fair. I'm sorry you were on the privileged end of that before, and now you're on the realistic end of it now, but like, it is what it is. And like, trying to come up with questions that somebody like that would ask, right? Like, why now? Why not before? Like, the technology didn't exist. It wasn't very good. Or like, why is this, or like, did a consultant get paid for this? Like, no, it was actually all internal. Your own city employees did it. Like, that's a good message too. Is the city using this as a cover to collect more revenue than they were before? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like the rates would have increased at a predicted rate anyway. We're just rejiggering how that total gets to there, right? So
Right.
I don't know. I mean, you've probably already thought about all these questions. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
and
go-
the point of if there is revenue increase, it's not about just bilking people out of money. It's to make sure that when we do have issues in the future, the city grows or we need new improvements, infrastructure changes, that we have the funding that accounts for the base that people have placed in the city in terms of all the impervious improvements that are causing the need for stormwater.
I think it would help to attach real dollars to a couple of those examples, like totally scrub off the address or something,
Yeah.
whatever. So it's anonymized, but so that the commission can see, oh, this is a $2 increase a month, or like, I think having that sense of scale might help people understand this is,
yeah,
it's like it might be a big jump, but it's not really that much
yeah,
money.
and we'll have that. They'll be part of the rate setting, because they'll see that the ERU current value, proposed ERU with that true up type value, and then that's easier to compare there. But yeah,
But we literally went through and looked at like classes, like for churches going up disproportionately over, your Walmarts of the world or your single family. I mean, so we were literally looking to see how equity was gonna play out in this and which groups were gonna be hit. And really it came down to very large residential that had a lot of impervious surface on it, like whether it's a basketball court, tennis court, a lot of driveway, because they have, 5 different garages or
Someone who has a
something.
private 50-meter pool outside.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, although it holds water, I don't know. Anyway, and then places like these apartment complexes. And so those are the ones that we're benefiting before. And am I missing anything?
No, you're right. I mean, the goal is ultimately to hopefully our user account for and paid for accurately. And that's not how the current system works as we work through this.
Curiosity, and this is probably hard to generalize because there are differences in how properties are built, both multifamily and single family. Is it possible to make any sweeping generalization of like the average single family homeowner will see their value, changed by this much, and the average multifamily renter will see their value change as much? Like, because of the way the multifamily changed, it seems like kind of depends on what kind of house you live in, right? Like for those who live in sprawling garden apartments, your rate will for sure go up. But for those who live in higher built place, we don't really have high rises, but whatever we call high rise here, right?
Yeah, we
Would
do
be
have
going down.
buildings like in downtown that have 4 or 5 stories at least of apartments. And I
Yeah.
think there are a couple that are close to that, close to campus. So it's not, it may be rare, but it's not unknown here.
Right, and the question is how that they will see that, whether, like you said before, will they see it in a bill they physically pay, or will it be just added into the cost of their rent? And again, it depends on how they determine they want to parse that back out to their lessees, so.
It seems like it's so all over the place, it's really hard to make any generalizations, and I feel like that's a good thing. For the most part, it's not obvious that like single family homeowners are getting the better deal. It's not necessarily like it seems like it truly does depend on how you've built your lot, if you've chosen to have a whole lot of stuff on it. And just, most people wouldn't have never guessed this moving into a multifamily structure, but like if you just happen to choose a higher one than a lower one, like then well, it's gonna happen to have a better deal for stormwater. But that's not a decision anybody would have thought of beforehand, I think. So, and it still may not even affect them. I mean, if it's split between 20 different residents, I never even got a notice.
Well, a lot of those larger outfits are, they have businesses in other communities with developments and.
Yeah.
Used to seeing different approaches.
I don't know that Lawrence has any subterranean like parking structures, but like in a high-rise development, if that existed, the impervious cover would just be the footprint of the building and not surface parking.
Right.
Would that impact it?
There
at
definitely
all?
are some subterranean garages, like the town place at 8th in New Hampshire, I'm sure has an underground garage.
It does. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, as I understand it, it's gonna be that top floor that's capturing the rainfall.
Mhm.
It's gonna be your square foot discount.
It really does go back to strong towns. And I think to your point earlier, Jenny, we can, as we're looking at the presentation we'll be giving, we'll try to put some of that why up front, which we generally do some of that, but try to get that infused in there when we go to the governing body, so that we start out with that being the conversation is this is about equity and accurate.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
that's a little bit strategic, but we're not going over numbers now, because it's 30,000+ accounts that we're still kind of running some numbers to see. Digest everything.
But it's taken a lot of work on our staff's part to get through all of this. Yeah. And we even created some AI stuff to try and capture some of it, but then you have to ground truth it anyway. So, feels good until you realize I gotta go look at this again. So.
That's the right way to use AI.
Yeah.
So
Sam is the waiting room.
I thought we would just add the roundtable thing to our agendas, because we used to have something like this on MMTC where we would go around and do updates, and like, I know you're on the bike planning subcommittee, so wanted to potentially hear from you, not to put you on the spot. Also wanted to give a shout out to Trevor, best tap water in the state. That's awesome. That's connected to Connected City.
Yeah,
And so
very connected.
it's a really big deal. And I wanted to.
We're thrilled.
And they're going up to Washington DC. They're gonna take water out there for the
The taste test.
The
Yeah.
contest.
Wine tasting like this.
It's serious. It's serious stuff.
Bottle, an amber bottle
Flavor of
and
prairie.
7 judges and they have all these categories they look for.
That's
Internationals.
huge kudos. And when I saw that news, I thought, that's a connected city thing, and you know,
It
like,
is.
definitely something
See,
to
so
call.
isn't that cool? You wouldn't have maybe known that. Like,
Right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So something to definitely be proud of. I don't know, on bike plan stuff,
Yeah.
is there anything you want to update us on?
We met on August 27th, and it was our third meeting. And we, before the meeting, took a list of different strategies and everybody kind of prioritized what they thought were the most important strategies. And then we talked through those together, and a few popped out at the top, and jot them down, but I can bring them next time. And then they also talked about some next steps. They're doing an open house. Shoot, I didn't take very good notes on this, sorry. But there's an open house coming up, I think, later this month. And they're working on a focus group. But I think the next step is to take how we prioritize those strategies and come back to us with some ideas for specific projects or next steps.
Cool. What's the timeline on the plan? Do you know?
I don't know for sure. I would imagine by October we'll have another meeting, but the strategies were kind of broken into different sections. There was engineering, so things like putting in more medians or the 21st Street. What's that called? Bike
Boulevard.
Bike Boulevard. Education. There were strategies around. There were 6 different categories. Encouragement, like just getting people excited about biking. There were ones around enforcement, so for drivers and cyclists, and then ones around measuring and evaluation. I think a couple that I remember rose to the top were education. There were maybe 1 or 2 around engineering, especially some of the areas where there's been a lot of crashes or vulnerable users are especially affected in the city, but I can come back with more detail next time.
The plan has been to have final approval by the end of the year. I know on the website it says winter 2025, but I think the goal was by the end.
And did you give the date of the public open house? I have it right in front of
Do
me.
you? Okay, great.
So it's September 30th.
Thank you.
From
Perfect.
4:30 to 6:30 PM at the Lawrence Public Library Auditorium on Vermont.
Oh,
And then they are tabling, sorry, this just came out, that's why I'm seeing it. They're tabling on the 27th of September from 7 to 11:30 AM at the Farmers Market. At the River Trail Riot on October 4th from 8 to 2. I'm not gonna say this, Octagonita, maybe I'm saying that right?
Agenda.
Oh, thank you. October 11th, 1 to 5, and then lastly, again, at the library on October 15th from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
And then there is a survey attached, so I would circulate that as well.
The one purely fun event on Friday, September 26th. It's parking day where people turn parking space into a mini park right downtown.
Oh, how
Fun.
fun.
Fun,
Here,
fun.
huh?
Yeah, they last year, like the architecture school took a shipping container and made an art gallery out of it. Another group did like a living wall with plants in front of Jungle House. So if you get a chance, just come down. It's kind of a fun way to re-envision what public space could be.
Mhm. Yeah, I loved doing parklet work when I was up in Ames, and they're so cool to have here too, so.
no, that's the 26th.
The 26th from 4 to 8. Yeah, downtown.
Okay.
Be the last thing you do before you fly out.
September 26th.
And mostly on 7th and 8th Street, I think between Mass and New Hampshire.
I know too that, and this isn't directly connected to this committee, but the KDOT is hosting their Walk Bike Roll Conference here in Lawrence in October. And I think Dave's gonna be presenting at that, and Mike Dever is gonna be there too, so just, a community thing as we're talking about them as well. I think it's on the 28th through the 29th and 30th.
Of October.
Yeah, of October. And anything else from folks?
I had another question about the bike plan.
Yeah.
My memory's fuzzy on this, but I remember previously talking about design standards either with regard to MSOs, engineering design standards, or even on the land development code, which sort of dovetails a little bit in terms of subdivision standards. Of this idea that current default, I think, is the white stripe bike lane, and that's what you put in, and at least some public comments have been trying to steer us towards making buffered or protected defaults. Where it's physically possible. And I think at the time when we were talking about that, I was like, well, we gotta wait till the bike plan gets updated because that's where all this stuff comes from. So if I remember that correctly, I guess my question for you is, has that come up at all?
That was one of the things that you could prioritize under the
Okay.
engineering list of topics, like more protected bike lanes, more bike lanes generally. So I will see if I can get that final list to prioritize how everybody voted.
I think it's
Does it show
here.
here?
There's a big old PowerPoint. Well, it's actually, okay. I'll have to look into it and see what's going on.
Yeah, sorry, next time I'll come better prepared to,
Yeah.
Share what
put you
we've been
on the
doing.
Spot with that one.
no, that's okay.
Just nice to see things are progressing quickly.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and there are just more great ideas and energy around different things we could be doing that are dollars and people and hours and
Yeah.
so we have to fix.
That's good. You won't be bored.
Exactly.
You have plenty of things to get to.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody has an idea.
Okay, and Mike, in the future, we'll have you report on the North Lawrence stuff here too. Thanks. The only other thing is, and I know I emailed you about this, Melissa, but
Yeah.
Vision Zero planning, and this might be a calendar thing, but I just want to acknowledge there was 2 motorcyclists killed at the same intersection in West Lawrence.
Yeah.
And in the 1 year where there's only been, well, there's been 3
Is that the
fatalities.
roundabout?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I got the background on all the deaths that have happened at that intersection over the last couple of years, and they've not been related to the poor intersection
Signage or the
design or,
engineering.
yes,
Has it been speeding?
yes.
Impairment.
Impairment and
But the
one,
roundabout will be taken out in the next 2 years and
Oh.
redesigned as part of the SLT project.
It's like in the right of way, right? Of that longer radius turn or something.
Yes, it does have to shift location, so it will be reconstructed, but we have been looking into that. Was there anything that was needed in terms of additional signage? Everything was there. So.
It's a roundabout I've taken plenty of times going to Clinton Lake over many years and the dog park that's down there. Yeah, it's tough for me to think about what we could have been missing in terms of signage and other things to try and alert people that there's a roundabout coming up and you need to slow down. Pretty sure there's even at least like one set of like yellow signs like slow down, something like that, or a max speed kind of thing, or recommended speed rather, that slows down as you approach it.
Yeah, there's the signage that's required for a roundabout with also that it's 15 miles per hour. So speed through that in advance. Right.
yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's why I looked into it, because to me, those things do warrant, so it's good to talk about it. One of the individuals, from what I understood from the police officer I spoke with, had actually tried to take his own life earlier, and then that's where he ended up crashing. So just, yeah, it's amazing what goes on in your community that you don't understand sometimes, but that was the backdrop on that, but it's good to know that we are reorientating it anyway.
Yeah, I think if we can talk maybe too in the future one about like what ongoing visions your work, because you guys are talking about stuff that's happening, like you're having
Yes.
conversations with.
We may
and you're
have
looking
an
at-
update next month when we come with the non-motorized. We'll have Dave and we'll have Jessica here.
Yeah,
Our consultant's been a little bit slow in getting out the dashboard and
Yeah.
everything. They built it one way and then with I don't know if it was with the new website. They had to completely rebuild
We don't have-
the
We
dashboard.
don't have a new website anyway, so.
Yeah, something with how everything's being brought in. The behind the scenes stuff, they had to rebuild it because what we told them to build it to is now changed.
yeah, and I just was like, well, let's see if we can get it on the
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah, I knew that one was sitting out there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I thought about it too. I was like, I'm pretty sure they were supposed to deliver a dashboard and then we haven't seen it, so.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. And I can email Jessica too if it's easier, whatever.
She works.
Yeah.
She's right on the other side of my wall, so.
She's our supervisor, so we're good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Back to Mike's question, do you think signs are an effective way to slow people down?
No,
Okay, that
but
was,
it's a good communication tactic at least. I mean, it's.
I mean, it's what's universally put out there as this is recommended and safe. And then everyone has, I guess, their free will to either go that route or not.
or you can slow down the traffic in other ways before the roundabout, right? I
Yeah,
live,
road design is definitely a more effective tactic because you get people drive to the speed that they feel comfortable, usually in my experience. And if you make a road that is very safe, that feels safe, like wide lanes and no intersections, because it's all like gated entrance and exits like we have on interstates, people are just naturally going to go faster. If you make the lanes narrower, if you put people closer to each other, it instinctively forces you to slow down. So I'm glad to hear that there's a rebuild coming in a couple of years. Maybe that'll be an opportunity to look at putting in something that convinces people themselves they need to slow down more there.
Yeah. It's already designed and bid. It's the SLT project happening now. So
Yeah.
it was designed according to current standards and it'll be in place in the next year and a half.
Is that KDOT's doing?
I can't promise that the lanes narrow or anything like that in that area though.
Yeah, I just knew that we were like, our roundabouts were sort of default safer. And so when it was happening at a roundabout, I was like, what, what's going on here? Cause that seems to be the, like with all the Wakarusa reconstruction, we're
It
putting
definitely
in.
changed in the last couple of decades though.
Yeah.
Roundabout design has significantly changed. So
And
the roundabout that's there versus what we will get is different. The lanes leading up to it though, that I'd have to check the plans. I'm not sure that it's narrower. And there's a lot of things we can do in neighborhoods that we don't do on our arterials and our.
yeah, I sometimes wonder, roundabouts are probably safer for traffic, but I live near a roundabout and I've never been almost hit more times than at that roundabout on my bike or
Yeah.
walking, because you have this weird tension where people are looking left and trying to speed up to like fit in between cars, but if you're
Yeah.
crossing on the right, you're in trouble. Or if you're on a bike, you're not visible behind the huge planter.
Or
And so
people who
I
don't
think they're-
understand them at all because they come
Yeah.
into them and they think that, they have the right of way to merge or whatever.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I think they're safer for cars, but I'm not sure about everybody else.
They eliminated that T-bone situation.
Yes.
But yes, for pedestrians or bicyclists, it's.
Yeah.
The theory is that there is some sort of tipping point for acceptance of roundabouts in a community, and we are nowhere near that. Whereas in European countries that use them excessively, everybody knows exactly what to do. Like even people who would drive poorly on other roads, like know when to use the turn signal to leave the roundabout. I mean, there's definitely still deviations, but like I even have this.
Yeah, it's not nearly as severe though.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably count on like a few sets of hands how many roundabouts we have and how many intersections do we have in total in this city. It's a pretty small fraction that use roundabouts.
I would say it's more than the average Midwestern town, probably.
It probably is more than that, but it's still an absolute kind of thing of, I'm spitballing 1% to like 3% is, 300 times bigger, but still, or 300% bigger, but not actually that big in the grand scheme of things where you could still dodge it entirely based on the route that you took to some place.
And then there's the difference between traffic circles and roundabouts. I learned today.
Yeah, what is the difference? One of them is you fully flow around all the time. Another one's like there might be a yield or a stop or a stoplight in the thing.
And you can turn left.
Is that the difference?
Yeah, there you go. See, she's got, that's what I,
I
today.
have one that I turn left on all the time.
Yeah, I was very confused by that, but I understand there's a size, but then it's also how you can navigate through them.
The one to 17th from Rhode Island. Is that the one you can go left through?
Yeah,
Silly me up and go all the way around.
or New Hampshire.
Most people, I said most people do go all the way
I
around.
kind of assumed that was the rule. I didn't want to like run
I've
into
never
somebody.
turned in one of them. I've always been just going straight. So, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Nice.
Now it has to be clear, or you're gonna have
Yes.
a little bit of a
Well,
conflict.
thanks. Figure. Yeah, my theory is that a town's driving behavior is influenced by where most of the people in that town came from. Like in Philadelphia, most people are from Philadelphia, right? But in DC, most people are not from DC. They're from all over the country and all over the world, and they're bringing their driving skills from middle of nowhere, Ohio, or middle of nowhere, Ethiopia. And like all those are now competing in the same place, and it's chaos. Whereas in the French countryside, they're all from their French countryside for sure. Like they've been doing this their whole life. They can drive a dump truck blindfolded down the roads, but when I go there, it's incredibly uncomfortable. All of a sudden, I'm driving way slower than the average dump truck driver because it's very uncomfortable in like a 7-foot lane in a small car. I just can't quite pull it off. So
And you just hope that there isn't another dump truck driver that tries to cut you off while you're doing it, right?
yeah, I was hoping the whole time, like, please, 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 nobody come on this road.
Or you're like on the Audubon and you try to exit and all the trucks are only allowed to be in the right-hand lane and
Yeah,
then you can't.
merge.
Yeah, like.
And
how
then
do
you have people who are in the left-hand lane going like 300 kilometers an hour because they're trying to film something for YouTube.
Oh, goodness.
It's TikTok.
The odd one,
Scary.
maybe Bouchot.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, next is the calendar.
Yep.
Looks like non-prioritization projects.
Yep, and then maybe.
We have an updated policy and then the 5-year projects as well.
Cool. And will we talk about the KPIs then, or do you think?
I'm gonna try to, we'll have updated KPIs by then. We're gonna talk about that tomorrow morning. And then, yeah, so we'll try to bring those, the ones that are key that we've kind of settled on that are pertain to connected city. And I'd like to show those to you guys and walk through those. So, sound good? And then we do have one other just minor update before we close. Kathleen, this is her last meeting with us. She is moving to Spain. She
Oh, my gosh.
lost her mom and her uncle needs her over there now. So she's been through a lot in the last few weeks, but we're gonna lose her. So
I'm really sorry to see, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And.
but she's pretty excited about going to Spain.
Sounds like an amazing adventure. Where in Spain are you going?
I'm sad I'm not gonna see the whole North Lawrence thing through, actually.
Yeah.
Have to come back. when
Really
it's
sad about that.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Join us on Zoom anytime.
Yeah.
And we are having a little soiree for her
Yeah.
this Friday.
Yeah,
We're
Friday.
at Lawrence Beer Company from 4 to 6. So if any of you are interested, stop by. We'll all be there MSOing and
Yeah.
saying goodbye. And she's here another week or week after that, but yeah. It's gonna go by fast.
Come on.
Yeah.
Happy hour. It's be fun.
Where in Spain, may I ask?
Yeah, so my mother was from Spain. And so I'm getting my Spanish passport, worked out. Like I'm flying to the consulate tomorrow. But it's gonna be in a town in northeast Spain called Zaragoza. And about 700,000 people live there. It's between Barcelona and Madrid. You can see the Pyrenees.
Fun to say.
Oh, he's found it already.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Barcelona. I went there in high school. It's a nice place, but I did
Yeah,
not.
yeah, I lived in
pleasure getting to
Barcelona.
Zaragoza.
Yeah, not a lot of people go, well, a lot of Chinese people actually, and Japanese people go as tourists to Zaragoza,
That's interesting.
but not really anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just, families live there. It's really not a tourist place.
But it does have a beautiful cathedral.
It has, yeah. It's
Get ready to use the train a lot more.
oh yeah, the train, absolutely. Everyone, I won't have a car.
It's probably a liability if you're in the center of Zaragoza.
Yeah, I'm gonna be right in the center of Zaragoza. Yeah, near the Puerto de Carmen. You're looking it up.
It looks like one of the biggest cities around there.
It is, it's big.
Nice.
Yeah, my uncle was the former managing editor of the newspaper there. And before that, he was the cultural editor of the newspaper. So he knows all the artists and writers in Audubon.
Oh, amazing.
He's a cool guy. So I'll go visit her here in the next year.
It sounds like you get out to Europe fairly often.
About every other year. I spend a week with a friend and then I go do something else.
So we have pretty big apartments. So if you want to come visit, all you have to do is let me know. You just click on the internet and get on a plane. And it's not that hard to come.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's a great hopping off point for everything else.
so, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
We'll miss you. Thank you for all your work on this.
thanks.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you. I think we just have to make a motion to adjourn the meeting, right?
Yeah, that's
I
it.
so move.
I second.
All right, there you go.
Right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right,
guys.
thank you.